Okay, we're back with the same concept, but there's another added wrinkle. In this case, we've got under the radical sign not only a number, but we've also got a variable. And so we've got to find if we can simplify the variable and if we can simplify the coefficient. So we can rewrite this as negative 2 times the square root of 128 times the square root of x to the fourth. Well, right away I can tell you that x to the fourth, square root of that, square root of x to the fourth is equal to x squared, because x squared times x squared is x to the fourth. So now we can rewrite this and pull it over, and we say now we have negative 2 x squared times the square root of 128. And what we want to do here, and hopefully you caught on to this on the last exercise, is we want to factor a 128, because remember the square root of 128 can be equal to square root of 2 times the square root of 64, and so on. So if we come along here, anyway, this is times here, 128, we can have 2 times 64. Well, son of a gun, right away, 64 is a natural square of 8. So we can rewrite this as negative 2x squared times the square root of 64 times the square root of 2. Okay? Well, my 64 here is actually the square root of 8 times the square root of 8 times the square root of 2 minus 2x squared times all that. Well, the square root of 8 times the square root of 8 is 8. Negative 2x squared times 8 times the square root of 2. Well, 8 times negative 2 gives me negative 16x squared times the square root of 2. And that is the answer. We've taken the square of the variable. We've simplified the square root of 128 to be 2 times the square root of 64, which makes it equal to 8, and we're home free. Okay? So far, so good. All right, let's look at this one. And we're going to do this one the same thing. Now we're equal to 3 times the square root of 320 times the square root of x to the fourth. Well, as we said before, x to the fourth is equal to x squared. So that leaves us with 3x squared times the square root of 320. Okay, so let's start looking for a factor here. 320 can be equal to 320. That could be equal to 2 times 160. Okay. Is that right? 2 times 160? I got to make that calculation here. 320 divided by 2. Yeah, 2 times 160. Well, 160 doesn't do us much help. Okay, let's see what else we can do here. What are we looking for? Let's see, it could be 4 times 80. That doesn't help us much. So let's jump up and see if we can divide something else into here. 10 times 32. Nope, that doesn't do it. Let's pick something in between here. Let's say we got 8. 8 times 320 divided by 8 is 40. Well, let's see what else we got here now. Well, we could say this is 8 times 8 times 5. Oh, okay. So now we got a factor here. 8 times 8 is 64 times 5. So we can come back up here and put in 3x squared times the square root of 64 times the square root of 5. Well, the square root of 64 is 8. So we're equal to 3x squared times 8 times the square root of 5, which 8 times 3 is 24. So we're left with 24x squared times the square root of 5, and that's our answer. 64 was the magic number because 64 is a natural square, and that's really where I should have started looking. I should have started looking at 4 and then 16 and then 64, but alas, I didn't. So let's take a look at and see if we can do that on this one. Here we can rewrite this as -6 times the square root of 96 times the square root of b. Well, the square root of b is just going to stay there because we can't take the square root of a b. So let's look for factors of 96 that make sense. 4 would be the first one. So we got 96 can equal to 4 times 12, 24. No help there. It can be equal, the next natural square after 4 would be 16. So it's equal to 16 times 6. Well, that works because 16's a bigger number here, and then the square root of, and then we have the square root of 6. So we come back over here, and 16 is equal to 4 times 4 times 6. So we end up with -6 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 6 times the square root of b. Well, these two come out to be 4. So I'm looking at -6 times 4. Okay, -6 times 4 times the square root of 6 times the square root of b. So -6 times 4 is -24 times the square root of 6b. And therein lies the answer. Okay? We've taken our 96 and split it between between 16 and and 3 and multiplied it over. Okay, or 16 and 4. All right, for the last one, it's very similar. We're going to rewrite this one as 3 times the square root of 28 times the square root of a. All right, nothing we can do about the square root of a. But what factors can we put into here to get a number? Well, let's see. 28 factors into, the first one would be divisible by 4, so that'd be 4 times 7. And the next one would be 16. It wouldn't work, so we're going to work with 4 and 7. So now we're left with 3 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 7 times the square root of a. Square root of 4 is 2. So 3 times 2 times the square root of 7 times the square root of a. So we're left with 6 times the square root of 7a, because we're going to put this a back underneath. Okay? So that is how you do these. Now, like I said, the key here is factor the two pieces. I mean, you could come through here and say 64x squared times the square root of 2, or 64x to the 4th times the square root of 2, and you would be getting to the right answer. But believe me, it's much easier to do the two pieces separately. Now there's 5 through 8 are here for you to do. Again, we're kind of getting to the end here, and these are things that I probably would have covered over a couple of days. So I don't want anybody to feel like they're not getting it or something is not working for them or something. Guys, have a little trust in me, and we'll all get through this. So thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you next week. And hopefully we'll all see each other out on the street soon. Thanks.